has always taught that unity is not something that you have to create. We don't have to create unity within ourselves. We don't have to go out and find ways to be unified. What we have to do is to remove all those things that are blocking it, blocking our remembrance of it. As the mystics say, we have to lift the veil so that we can actually begin to remember that we were created as this whole in the first place. So this talk is about remembering who we really are, not separate beings trying to connect, but connected beings waking up from that dream of separateness, from that idea that we are not part of a collective here. And so this idea of me here, the me consciousness, we're actually born with this, so it's very natural for us to have this idea of me. Think about a newborn baby. It is very me-centered. If it is hungry, you know it. If it needs to be changed, you know it. If it's just upset for some reason, you know it. It is all about what's happening as me when I'm that infant, when I'm that individual being that has first come into the world, because we haven't learned anything about relationship yet. We haven't felt the connection that we have, other than the connection we had with our mother and possibly even our siblings and father, that because we were in that womb surrounded by the vibration of these people and the energy of the people that were around us. We have a little sense of that. I know when my nephew was born, the moment he came out of the womb and my brother spoke, his head turned to find my brother, because my brother had talked to him all the time that he was in utero. And so he looked for it. So he had already made that little bit of a connection there. But when we're in the seed stage of the soul, this is where the ego is very dominant. I know the ego gets maligned a lot. We don't often talk very nicely about our egos, but they do serve a purpose here. They keep us safe. They keep us getting our needs met and things like that. But it's, again, a very underdeveloped idea of our connection with everything else in the world. So we are wrapped up in this, our own little world, where it's my needs, my hurts, my desires. That's what's important to us when we first come into this world. And this is where our identity begins to form, and it's where our growth begins. It's where we actually begin to move into that higher states of consciousness. So the ego is not an enemy of awakening, but it's the raw material that our soul uses to create this condition that we have, where we actually begin to awaken to our humanity, awaken to that. But if our identity stops there, then we remain small and fearful. I think this is a problem with a lot of things in the world right now, where the ego has stopped developing and it's kept itself in isolation. So we have ideas like, I must protect everything around me. I've got to stay safe. Anybody have anyone in their life that has that idea? I got to protect things. Or I must compete. It's always a competition. I'm always striving for more. I've always got somebody out there that I have to beat or overcome, or some kind of condition where I have to, it's not. There's not enough for both of us there. It's I've got to get what I can get while I can, in order to survive. There's this idea that there's never enough of anything out there, and so I got to get mine while I can. Otherwise, there won't be anything left for me. You can see all of this playing out in our world right now. I believe it's the mentality of many of the people that are wealthy and powerful right now. It's like this constant striving for more and more and more. And if I don't get enough of it, there's not going to be enough there for me. So I've got to overcome that. This is the me consciousness at this stage looks around and it asks questions like this: will there ever be enough? If I don't get what I need right now, it's going to be a limited supply out there. Or am I safe? I've got to build up my power. I've got to surround myself with, all kinds of armor and things that will keep me safe in the world. Or they also ask, what if I'm alone? What if I don't have enough people around me? This is where our life is only focused on the me, and we live from defensiveness and fear. And so those are the kind of questions that we're asking. We are unaware of our connection with greater humanity, and so we live from this place of fear inside of ourselves, and that is the driving force for it. So the me consciousness actually builds walls, where the we consciousness builds bridges for connection. The me consciousness isolates ourselves. The me consciousness wants to keep everything close and tight, where the we consciousness is ready to open up, to open out a way, to let that imprisoned splendor come in. Ernest Holmes reminds us that there is only one life. That life is God. That life is my life now. When the mystics hear this, people that have lived with that direct experience of the divine, they would add, and that same life is in every other being, every other creature, every other heart. There is only one life. It is the life that exists in all. So unity here is not just a philosophy. We often talk about things like oneness and unity and so forth as high and holy principles, but how often do we actually put them into practice? Unity here is a felt sense. It's actually something you experience when you experience unity, not just this idea of we're all one, but it's a knowing through our heart, not an intellectual understanding. It's when we have that felt sense of it. This is when our hearts begin to open. This is when we begin to see something other than our own needs, our own fears, our own desires. This is when we can open up to see what is available for us around there. So this mystical journey that we're experiencing is always an act of softening. It's softening ourselves to the world around us. It's softening ourselves to that idea that we are separate beings. It's opening up to the idea that this separation is actually a myth. It's the moment that often comes through intense love or intense suffering. It's a moment that can hit us when we are in deep listening, when we're sitting in contemplation and meditation and really going within and connecting with spirit. It can hit us when we're in deep grief, when we've lost something dear to us and we're just broken open and there's no place else to turn, and so we begin to fill ourselves with that sense of oneness, that sense of unity. It can happen in those magnificent moments of beauty. When you're standing looking at the sunrise, as Debbie talked about this morning, or one of our beautiful sunsets we have here in the wintertime. Don't we have glorious sunsets in the winter? Desert sunsets in the winter are the best things ever. Those moments of pure beauty where you are in awe with what has been created for you. This can happen when we are experiencing compassion or empathy for others around us, when we see the struggles of someone else and we open ourselves up to it. It's softening all of those barriers that we've put up around ourselves to keep us safe, that the ego has developed. This is an experience of knowing that there is something much more than me, and that I am part of something that is so vast and so beautiful and so perfect. Unity is not just a philosophy, it's not just an idea, but it is a felt sense of knowing that we are connected to something else. Joel Goldsmith says it this way. He says, when you behold the presence of God in another, you behold the presence of God within yourself. When you behold the presence of God within another, you behold the presence of God within ourselves. God is most easily recognized when we see it mirrored back to us from someone else. It's hard for us to realize it within ourselves. It's hard for us to shed all of those veils that have wrapped us around in this protective cocoon and to allow ourselves to see God coming through ourselves, but we can see it reflected back to us. That's why we sit in awe of other people that have done something so amazing that just touches us in such a deep way. That's why we are in awe when music makes us cry, or when a prayer touches us in some way that we feel different than we did before it started. When we see God reflected back to us, we recognize it more easily than we do when we're just in isolation. The Hindus have a term for this, and if you have been around this center very long, you've heard this term before. If you've ever gone to a yoga class, you've heard this term. This is a greeting and a farewell. So it's used both ways, like the word aloha in Hawaii. This is the word namaste. And namaste in Sanskrit basically means the divine that's within me sees the divine within you. I bow to it, recognizing it and honoring that presence. It is about that sense of seeing God reflected back to us and knowing that we are more when we are connected with someone else than we are when we're sitting in our own little world, thinking only of ourselves. When we see something reflected back to us and it brings us to that sense of awe, that's where we have that idea. So this is the recognition that beneath all of our personalities, beneath all of our stories, and beneath all of our differences, we share the same sacred essence. It's the recognition of it. No matter whether we like what we're seeing in front of us or we disagree with what we're seeing in front of us, it's the recognition that the presence of the divine is right there too. Namaste is our inner posture of unity consciousness. This is actually unity put into practice. So this idea of this we consciousness, I think of this as the action of love. When we actually begin to shift from that me consciousness, that isolated idea of I've got to look out for me. What's that phrase? If it is to be, it's up to me. That we hear that a lot bantered around, that I have to just strive and do it for myself. When things are so much easier when we come together as a community to do it. I just think about the things that are happening here at our center. Could any of you ever imagine collecting that many clothes? In 2 weeks? Collecting that many things. And that's only about a fourth of it. The rest of it's back here in the storeroom. We're figuring we've got to have 2 vans full at least. When we come together as a community, we can do amazing things. This past week on Thursday night, I had an experience of a Gourmets for God, one of our fundraising events. Shirley Davis and Katie Lingo put together the most fabulous dinner. Stuffed salmon. It was stuffed with crab meat. It was so phenomenal. And then homemade pies. Life doesn't get much better than that. But when we come together in this consciousness of one, we do amazing things. We do miraculous things. Things unfold that couldn't possibly happen when we're there in isolation by ourselves. We do these wonderful things when we come together because we become love when we come together in community. Now, this isn't one of those romantic loves. This is a love that transcends everything, that transcends the differences. When we come together with different kinds of people, with different ideas and different belief systems, and we come together and we create something wonderful. How many of you have ever been to the interfaith forums, the discussion groups that we have? They're going on, are they going on now, Katie, or is it next week? They start tonight. The interfaith forum starts tonight. This is faith leaders from 20 or 30 different spiritual traditions who come together to talk about one idea. And they come together in this idea of unity and love. Not isolation, not differences, but what is possible with this collective consciousness. And so when we bring that together, it's a wonderful experience for everyone. So this is where we begin to become less interested in how do I get ahead, and more interested in how we can rise together. Can we use some of that around here right now? How can we rise together? In unity consciousness, my good is never separate from anyone else's good. In unity consciousness, there isn't, I got to get mine because there isn't going to be enough for me. It's about the sharedness of it. It's about coming together and recognizing that we live in this world of abundance. That abundance is always there for us. And if we're not seeing it right now, then we need to remove the blocks that are stopping us from seeing it. When we are working in this we consciousness, it's not about saying, I love you because you are like me. It's more, I love you because you are me, just in another form. So it eliminates those ideas of differences that as human beings we naturally recognize differences before we recognize anything else. And so it's about looking past those and seeing this is just the presence of the divine showing up in front of me in another form, in another body, in another way of thinking, in another way of being. So when we shift from the me consciousness to the we consciousness, I don't have to think about how I have to protect myself from others. I think about the connection that's available when I meet with others. I am not constantly striving anymore. I'm co-creating. Co-creating with the divine, co-creating with the world around me. I no longer compete, I collaborate. I don't have to hold on to and hoard, I share. I think we have a great example of letting go of hoarding out there right now. I'm just saying. And I don't have to fear anymore. I can trust. I can trust that the universe always has my back. And that everything is unfolding for the highest and greatest good of all, including me. So again, unity is the felt experience of God as relationship. The felt experience of God as relationship. It's not just a principle. It's not just a high and holy thing that we strive for, but it's an actual practice of being in relationship and recognizing that those we're in relationship with are actually an aspect of the divine too. They are just another incarnation of spirit manifesting itself here on earth. Remember, I've said this often, spirit loves wondrous diversity. Spirit loves to experience life in all these different ways. And so it creates differences. Imagine what life would be like if everything was the same. When we look at another person, we see ourselves. This is from the Buddha. When we look at another person, we see ourselves. Rumi puts it this way: you are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. Each one of us is that individual drop in the ocean, and together we create amazing waves. We create a momentum, and we create a possibility that wasn't there before when we come together. In the Christian tradition, Jesus would have said, I and my Father are one. And our own founder, Ernest Holmes, says, we exist in a universe of unity, not division. We exist as this one, showing up in all these wonderful forms before us. So this idea of unity as a relationship is taken a little bit further with an idea that comes to us from the Southern African languages of the Bantu people. It's a mystical belonging. It's called, let me get this right, because they all sound like O's. They all sound like the O in moon. Ubuntu. Ubuntu. I had to practice it today. Ubuntu. I am because we are. What a wonderful concept. I exist because of everything else in front of me. I exist as this divine incarnation of spirit, and I recognize that when I see it existing in front of me in other people. This comes from the Kwanzaa traditions, and as I said, the Bantu languages of South Africa. I am because we are. So this is the same as that idea that we have in mysticism, that there is only one life. Ubuntu says that one life lives in us relationally. It lives in us as a relationship with others around us. In Science of Mind, we would say God expresses through all. And in Ubuntu, they would say, and therefore, we are responsible for one another. We are responsible for one another. Spirit does not become fully visible in a single person. That's only a part of it. I know that everything I am is Spirit incarnated. But I also know that Spirit is a whole lot more than I could ever be. And when we come together in relationship, the part of Spirit that's in me and the part of Spirit that's in you and the part of Spirit that's in you, imagine what that becomes as it comes together in relation. It becomes visible when we're in relationship with others. As Jesus would have said, when two or more are gathered, there I am. When the presence is felt in relationship, it is so much more than it could ever be in an individual. Ubuntu is spiritual truth in motion. It is that action of love that we have for everyone else. Again, Spirit does not become fully visible in a single person. It is visible when we're in relationship. Spiritual truth in motion. When the heart begins to remember that I am because we are, every encounter becomes an inner softening. Every encounter becomes a moment when that veil gets thinned, when we can see beyond ourself, beyond our own little self, and we feel the presence in another life. This is a moment when our soul begins to speak this idea of Ubuntu. I am because we are. Not I am in spite of you, but I am because we are. Not I am separate from you, but my life is expanded because your life exists. We often feel this when we enter into an intimate relationship with someone. We feel that connection. We feel that my life has now been enhanced because this other person has come into my life. Now imagine what that would be if we could embrace many more people into our lives, into that idea that we are this collective consciousness that brings about a greater experience of the divine. This is a recognition that my dignity is your dignity. My thriving is your thriving. My success is your success. My humanity is your humanity. My humanity is your humanity. If we think about this and think about then our subsequent actions, it becomes much more difficult to engage in acts that we would not necessarily engage in against ourselves when we remember our relationship with others. How can we go to war with someone else if we understand that we're actually going to war with ourselves? It makes us have that pause to think before we act. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, says, "We live in a universe of unity, not division." Ubuntu is the embodiment of oneness. It is the practice of oneness. It is the idea of unity as love in motion. It is the idea that we belong to each other and that we're responsible for each other. It's taking that wonderful phrase of namaste and actually putting it into action as opposed to just a greeting. When I realize that everything about me is tied to everyone else around me, then I have more difficulty engaging in the things that I wouldn't do to myself. But it takes courage. It It takes courage to do this. It takes courage to stand up to those who would denounce this idea of oneness and unity. It takes courage to say, that's not the right thing to do to somebody. You wouldn't do it to yourself, so why are you doing it to somebody else? It takes courage to soften ourselves, to let go of those shields that we've put up, those barriers, those things that have protected us for so many years. It takes courage to let those down, to let our guard down, as they say. It takes courage to look at someone you don't like and see the presence of the divine. It takes courage to look out at a situation that you find abhorrent and know that the God is present there too. It takes courage to come together in community and stand up for what's right. We had an excellent demonstration of courage a couple of weeks ago with 7 million people standing up for what they believed is right. It takes courage to look at somebody else and say, my life is bound up with yours, and that what happens to you also happens to me. This is the mystical heart of the message of Jesus, to love thy neighbor as thyself. Not in addition to, but literally as yourself. I think we can no longer do a lot of those things that have been happening in our world if more people recognize this. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Ubuntu. I am because we are. I love Rumi. We've got a class getting ready to start on Rumi here, but this is one of his favorites. When I am with you, we are the mirror and the face. When I am with you, we are the mirror and the face. I have another one of his poems. I didn't write this one down, but I love it. It's out between ideas of wrongdoing and right doing. There's an empty field. I'll meet you there. And when two souls lie down upon the ground, then words like you and I stop making any sense. Rumi was wonderful. Rumi. Ubuntu tells us the same thing. It says, I cannot know my face until I see it reflected in you. I cannot know the truth of who I am until I see it mirrored back to me. The converse of this is when I see something mirrored back to me that I don't like, is an opportunity for me to look at my own behavior. We don't always like to hear that part. It's nice to think about all the good stuff that's happening and see it reflecting back to us. But when we see behaviors that we engage in that we don't really care for reflected back at us, that gives us a chance to, again, have the courage to soften, remove the armor, and look at our own behaviors there. This is not about shifting from having no self, but it's about looking at an isolated self versus a connected self. We don't have to give up our individuality to become part of this one. But we do have to look at how our individuality is reflected in others around us and how our actions affect those around us. I am because we are. When we do this, we become co-beholders of God, of the Christ, of that illumined consciousness that is available to all of us. When we begin to look at ourselves and soften to the way that we are reacting to others around us. Our humanity is not individualistic, but relational. Our humanity is tied to others. The divine is expressed through community. Where two or more are gathered, there I am. And the well-being of the self is intimately tied to the well-being of the whole. We are not meant to exist in isolation. We are a communal animal. We are meant to survive with others around us. So this idea of Ubuntu is more than just ethics. It's more than just a nice feeling that we practice at the end of December. It is a spiritual belief that we are expressions of the very same life force. That the God that is within you is the same God that is within me. It just looks a little different. It may act a little different, but it's the same. It's about coming together spiritually, not always in agreement, but in recognizing presence and working away so that we can coexist together. It's about saying that your spirit is as sacred as mine, and that we both walk together on holy ground. It's about how we move from the me to the we. From this individual identity of isolation to a collective consciousness that transforms the world. And it's the work that we're given to do. That's why we're here. It's why we come together in spiritual community. It's why we study. It's why we read. It's why we pray. It's why we meditate. To have a greater and greater understanding of this collective consciousness as it shows up in me, and as it shows up in you, and as it shows up when we come together in community. It's high and holy work, and it's not for the faint of heart. As I said, it takes courage to practice this idea of unitive consciousness. But it is the way that we awaken our mystical consciousness. It's the way that we awaken to the divine possibility. It is the way that we create that world that works for everyone in all of creation. As I said, this is what we're here to do. And actually, you signed up for it, so hey. All right, let's take this into prayer. I invite our practitioners to come up and stand around us. Our beautiful, beloved practitioners are in service to this community throughout the week. If you have a prayer request, please submit it. I've been noticing people are having challenges, and I'm like, okay, how come your name's not on the prayer list? Submit it. Reach out. Ask for prayer. It's what we're here to do. If you'd like personal prayer, you can go to the prayer room after service. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But it is a wonderful gift you give yourself by allowing someone in this beloved community to know the truth for you when you can't quite see it for yourself. So let's just take a moment here and turn within. I like to close my eyes and take in a breath. Let my shoulders drop. Opening up that heart space where I feel that presence of the divine. And so right here and right now, I truly know there is only one life, one power, one presence, one divine creative source of all. I am delighted to see the ways that this one shows up so beautifully and perfectly right in front of me, wherever I look. I know this one is perfect peace, as unconditional love, as wisdom and clarity, as balance and harmony. Because I know there's only one, I know that I am one with it. I know the power and the presence of that creative love intelligence resides right at the heart of my being. It is the truth of who I am, who I've always been. I am created in the image and likeness of the divine, perfectly and uniquely. And as I know this is true for me, I know this is true for each one of us. We are all that wondrous, amazing expression of a powerful love. And so knowing this truth, I speak my word right here and right now. I know that each one of us is part of this collective whole. And that as we recognize it, our life opens. The veil falls away. The armor is discarded. And the love that we are shines forth beautifully and magnificently. I know that each one of us has been brought here to this moment to do the work of the divine, to be that place where God shows up in relationship with others, to be that place of Ubuntu, to be that namaste, to be that collective consciousness, that unity of one. I know that each one of us is divinely equipped for this high and holy work. And so I just give great thanks for this. I'm so grateful to see it in action right here and right now. I am so grateful to know that this is a transformative force and that our world is shifted through this consciousness of one. And I release this word into the law, to that creative mind that always says yes, that knows no lack or limitation, that sees no separation, that beholds itself only as one. I let it go and I let it be. And together we say, and so it is.